We're back, baby. It's the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher Tosopoulos, DJ Nikki Snacks Crowder. The Quan Cosby is on his way to the big game this weekend. He's got babies to kiss, hands to shake, and he's got to move on over to Dallas. But don't worry, we have an unbelievable replacement from the other side of the aisle. We have Caleb Kelly joining the boys. Caleb, welcome to the show. You know what? I'm glad that we got to be friends with you prior hopping on a little chitter chatter, because he's decked out. For those not watching, he's decked out in his OU gear. He's got his jersey behind him. He's got his Beat Texas hat on, and he bought it just for the show. So
I did.
Respect to the rivalry. It's a really crazy game, and you've played in a bunch of them. You're 6-1, as you swiftly reminded us before we even got to introduce ourselves. And you have a massive play causing the fumble on the kickoff to Xavier Worthy, which gives us the shakes every time we run a ball back. But last year it's a very different story in Texas OU, and we really kicked some booty. But it should be a bit closer this year. What are your keys to the game, for you guys this time around, because we're a pretty similar team to beat Texas. And then what are you saying in the locker room as a veteran leader after last year?
Yeah. So anytime you play in this game, emotions are so much higher. There's a lot of emphasis on discipline. I mean, you walk down the tunnel, you walk out, and the whole entire team from both sides are sitting there in that one tunnel. There's one entrance into the stadium, one exit, and you're already talking smack usually. I mean, I've been thrown out of the game before when I was a player. I was hurt, and so I was sitting there talking mess, and I've been thrown out for talking mess. I mean, there's so many emotions that go on, and who can be more disciplined? Who's a guy or a team that can really handle those emotions and channel them in the right way? That's kind of what you have to talk about. I mean, for both sides, because it is a different game. You know how every coach comes in every single week and they're like, oh, it's just the next game on. It's not in this one. And both sides, Sarkisian and Venables, they'll both state that it's not the same atmosphere. It's not the same thing as the week before. So for us, what I've said in the past is, man, you got to use that energy in the right way, that emotion in the right way, but you still at the end of the day got to do your job, and you got to make those big plays. What are keys this week? Who's going to have better special teams? I know I'm the kick return or kickoff strip guy over at OU. Love throwing my horns down after and everything. We talk about it on our shows all the time. But special teams is huge. Field position, I mean, statistically, you guys even in that game had a block punt in 2021 that statistically, if you block a punt in the game, like your odds of winning go up like 60%. And so special teams is huge. People like to sleep on that. A lot of fans like to sleep on that and don't really care about it too much. But, man, that's what's going to be important. Decision-making by QBs, that's every game, and discipline, doing your job on defense, tackling. Traditionally, who wins the game in OU Texas is whoever has the most rushing yards. And so on that D-line and O-line, who's going to show up, and it's just going to be fun. I'm so excited to see it overall.
I'm not going to remind you too many times, but last year, 49-0. That's definitely sticking in the back of the mind of the OU team, right? I mean, like, what's the mindset in this year's preparation? Like, okay, they beat the crap out of us last year. We're not going to let that happen. Or is it just, trying to fire, early on all cylinders? Like what's the team telling themselves to avoid something like that?
It's actually funny. There are 63 new guys on our roster. So for 63 guys, it's their first OU Texas. They've never even experienced it before. Right. So to be completely honest with you, it hasn't gotten brought up that much because a lot of those guys are gone. And I mean, rightfully so, 49-0, you could clear house. You know what I mean? Like Coach Venables, if it wasn't his first year, if it's his fifth year and it's 49-0, like he wouldn't be here. That's just how important it is on both sides. I mean, you see it happen to Charlie Strong. You don't win OU Texas, you're gone. Like it just is what it is. Same with Herman, like after that. And so for anybody, I think the returners, it's got to be in there. I mean, for the coaches, it's in there. But for a lot of our players, it's not getting brought up a lot because a lot of them just weren't there. Like, it's a totally new team. And I think that's what's been surprising. We had so much success this year with so many new guys, but that leadership is really what's done really well for us this year.
Man, I didn't
It's
realize it was
Gabriel's first.
63 so much.
Yeah, I was looking at their depth chart on our lads. Shout out to them, great website. And like if you're a new transfer, your name's highlighted in orange. Their whole depth chart is like I was like, wow, that is and it's
color.
Dylan Gabriel. It's Dylan Gabriel. It's Dylan Gabriel's first Texas OU techno. He didn't play last year, which is probably a big reason when it went 49-0. Are you a little concerned though? Like, because you're saying running game is most important. Are you a little concerned with your guys' run game and how strong ours has been? Like, truthfully, like, ours has been on a meteoric rise. Like, is that a concern for you? Like, what are you saying on the defensive side?
Yeah, I talked on Monday. I think the best thing y'all do on offense is run the ball. I think Quinn Ewers is a freak athlete, and so he's made a lot of those throws that most quarterbacks wouldn't. But I don't like his decision-making so far. I mean, those throws, he's making them because he is so athletic, but you're making them against Kansas, which no knock on Kansas, but then you play OU. Are those throws going to be different? Are they going to be PBUs and not catches, or are they even going to be interceptions? Like, his decision-making has to be up to par this week. I think that's what's really going to be the deciding factor on offense for y'all. Y'all's O-line, pass blocking too. Those tackles are big, lean guys, which means they're kind of top heavy. They like to punch or do a swipe and then another punch to make it so that guys miss with their first attack on defense, like pass rushers miss. And usually if there's a guy like that, you can give them a couple pass rushes with speed. And then because they are so top heavy and now they're thinking about what's coming, that's when you can do moves on them. And that's where they've given up a lot. And that pressure has just been hard for Quinn Ewers. Now on our side, yeah, we haven't ran the ball the way we're supposed to at all. And those two interior D linemen y'all got, some dogs. And Jalen Ford, he's one of the best linebackers in the country. I'm a linebacker myself. Yeah, I'll put my stamp on that. I mean, 6 interceptions in 2 years. Cat can ball, and I love a guy who could turn the ball over. Like, it is what it is. That man can ball.
He's gonna be playing on Sundays for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Starting.
That just is what it is. And so when you got 2 interior, which everything starts up the middle, people like to run inside zone. Y'all run a lot of stretch and a zone in general, and then you got some pin and pull type of plays that y'all do. But in general, offensive coordinators like to get vertical with the ball with their run game, and having those 2 D linemen in there and the fact that we haven't ran the ball that much, when it comes to it, it's going to be a big challenge for our offensive line. Your edge guys, I think it's not too much of a difference there with our O-line and y'all's edge guys, but those 2 interior D linemen are some dogs. Like, you got some dogs. And so I'm excited to see how that'll play out this week.
What's the difference, do you think, about game planning for a single running back? Let's use Bijan Robinson, for example, and kind of a running back group by committee. I mean, Jonathan Brooks has definitely solidified himself as RB1 here, but there's other guys you have to worry about. Cedric Baxter, Jaden Blue, of course, Quinn runs the ball a little bit. But, I mean, last year, the focus is completely on Bijan. You know, and what's the difference for a defense to game plan for a guy like that versus more of a group?
I think it's more on the offensive coordinator for that, and then opposing for us as a defense, the defensive coordinator's mindset. When you're playing and you're in the game, y'all know, like, I just want to do my job. It doesn't matter if it's who's in. Now, I think when you look at Baxter, I personally think he's a better running back in the future. Like, he's going to be that next Bijan Robinson type of guy. The moves he makes, the shiftiness he has, and the ability to get vertical off those moves. And junior year, Baxter is going to be a freak. Like, I think personally, Jonathan Brooks obviously is number 1. He's got more experience, and he's got breakaway speed that is important too. Got some good cuts, but I personally think Baxter's the better of the 2. He's just less experienced. When you're talking about the mindset going in, it's just that you got to do your job. And so looking at whoever's in the backfield, you might know one's going out for a pass or the tendencies that come with them. But when there's a solidified starter, you're more game planning for that guy than the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about our interior defensive linemen and how fantastic they've been, and comparing the 2 rushing attacks. Texas, I mean, Jonathan Brooks, you were just talking about in his speed breaking through the second, third levels of the defense. And I mean, he's had 3 games where he's had 100 yards on the ground. Yeah. Oklahoma hasn't had an 100-yard rusher yet, right? But you also put up 50 points last week. It's not like he can't score. Is there something that you're looking for the Oklahoma offense to do to open things up for Dylan? Because our defensive backfield is going to present more challenges than they've seen thus far. Guys that can tackle, can hit hard, and obviously can get PBUs and break up, passes, and also make the plays. You're talking about Ford and how great he's been when the ball gets near him. He actually catches it, right? Like that's a huge thing, especially for a linebacker. So what do they need to do running the football at least a little bit to open things up for Dylan for him to have that success?
Yeah. Well, I do have to start off and say that, I mean, Matt Campbell in Iowa State is who we played last week, and that's who we put 50 on. That's the first time since I've been here we put 50 on a Matt Campbell team. I mean, last 9 years, that's the most points we put on Iowa State. Iowa State has been top defense in Big 12 for the last 5-6 years.
Really good point.
That's something where when you look at the OU defense, you look at the Texas defense in general, those are the teams that you look for. OU's defense has balled out the way that they've been balling this year. Texas has. You guys have predominantly been known for your defense, but Iowa State has been above both of us. And so I think what they displayed this last week is they don't have to run the ball. Like when you're offensive coordinator, you got to do what you got to do. Our best asset probably right now on offense is the load of receivers we have. I mean, we got young guys coming in. Nick Anderson, this is his first time playing. He's got 10 touches, receptions with 5 touchdowns. Every other catch is a touchdown for him. I mean, you got young guys, you got transfers of Andrella Anthony coming in from Michigan, who he's our leading receiver. He had 1 catch last week, and that was in a 50-point game. So, I mean, there's so many weapons. I'm so excited for that battle, though. Personally, our receivers versus y'all DBs, because you go around the country, you look for those 6-foot DBs. Y'all got them every year. I think your corners are better than your safeties, personally. That's just my own opinion watching film. Your corners, but, I mean, when you look at it, those are guys who are on the island, and those are guys where the jump balls, 50-50 balls are coming. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Do I think the run game needs to be better this week to develop that passing game? 100%. But now, compared to last year where, 1, we didn't even have Dylan, but 2, when we did have Dylan, he wasn't running the ball because we found out what happened if he didn't play, if he did get hit. Dylan's able to run. He has since he was at UCF making those plays. And so the ability for him to get out of the pocket, and, I mean, Quinn Ewers has the same thing, but he is a guy that can burn you if you don't. He ran some linebackers over. He had 2 touchdowns last week running guys over into the end zone. So, I mean, he's playing at an all-time high right now. I think that was Dylan's best game personally. So, does it need to be better with our running backs? Yes, but will Levy be able to find, our offense coordinator be able to find ways to get it done? I personally think that he's capable, and he's proven that before.
Do you feel like there's do you feel like there's ever like people holding punches back before the OU Texas game? You know, like kind of not just trick plays, but just like play call and just like in general of utilizing players before the game, early in the season. I
think they probably try to dream up 1 or 2 or save 1 or 2 plays, but outside of that, like as an offense coordinator, defense, you got no option. You got to practice that stuff week in, week out. So defense, you get what you get. You might add something that you saw somebody else do, but I think OU Texas is more about the mentality and the physicality and all those things that win the game more than, what scheme. Like it's just 2 dogs going in and let's show up and see what happens. Like who's going to come out and win. So I don't know. To answer that question, though, to answer, do I think they hold some back? Yeah, probably 1 or 2 plays. Each offensive coordinator probably has something tricky up their sleeve that they haven't done before that whole season.
Yeah, you shouted out Nick Anderson, and that's a guy we covered on our last show we did because the stat line is ridiculous. The stat line is just ridiculous. You know, his yards per catch is absurd, and I think it's interesting that you like our corners better than our safeties because I think we sometimes flip-flop, but, you know, I like that take. I think one of the issues we're having right now is 2 day-to-day injuries we have going on with Jatavian Sanders and Ryan Watts. You know, Ryan Watts, as good and important as Jatavion is, and as good of an athlete and tight end as he is, like having Watts in that game as our top corner, one of our top corners, is going to be massive. There's a lot of speed for OU, and I don't think the run game is bad. It's just so different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think you
Not what
probably
it has been either. I mean, you go from Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine to Rodney Anderson, Nick Anderson's older brother, who had, I think, 100-something yards in OU Texas, to Trey Sermon, I mean, now it's just a different style of running play where you're expecting that 100-yard game every single week. And you might have two guys to do it, to now, like you said, there's not one time this whole year where we've had one.
Yeah, and I think that Rodney, it's so crazy that Rodney Anderson, Trey Sermon, that was like, when we were doing some research. I think your sophomore year, that was probably the best team you played on, I would say.
Yeah,
I think that Georgia loss, which is probably one of the best games the last decade. I think a lot of people would say. I'm sorry, homie to homie. Sorry, you're on the other side of it. Texas, we go dogs. But it's looking at the stats. Like, if you look at the offensive side, you have Hollywood Brown, you have Mark Andrews, you have CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee's a guy we were talking about, like, I guess maybe before the show, like some of the best, most talented weapons to ever come out of OU and go pro. But yet and Baker, who was at a Heisman level that year and first overall pick. Yet the run game was almost as effective, if not more, with Anderson and Sermon. So I think the two guys in the middle, I'm glad you shouted them out for us. Not only do they have to put pressure on the run game, but they have to put pressure on Gabriel. Like, it's going to be substantial, because maybe the run game isn't like it was then, but that doesn't mean the pass game isn't either. Because like Jaleel, and you mentioned the transfer from Michigan, really didn't touch the ball last game, but Anderson is crazy. Like, Dylan Gabriel is good at spreading the ball around, whether he's a pro or not. He's a veteran quarterback in college football, and he's a guy that's played in big games before.
All time, just past Russell Wilson on touchdowns.
Oh wow!
I mean, all time in U.S. history of college football. Like, he's no joke. He's a great athlete. He's a great leader too. So his guys feed off of him, play better with him. And I'm telling you, like, last year's Dylan is not this year's Dylan. He felt the pressure. He had all the expectation and was like, it is different than UCF. I thought it was going to be the same, because he's a transfer guy as well. And this year, man, he's just embraced it, like, and loved it. And so that's why, I agree. You got to get to him. I mean, you want to be OU, you got to get in that QB's head. And that's what you saw last year. We were in QB's head from snap one when we go Wildcat. I mean, how many throws we have? Like 3 in the whole game. We're not Army, so.
What year is this? 1876. Like, what, like before they invented the pass, like, it was still kind of like a little like rugby. No helmets, just like loose as a goose out there. Yeah, I as a fan of football, like, we obviously want to win, but we want a good game. Like, last year we probably needed that for morale, because we hadn't had the playoff appearances and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we stopped watching the game in like the third quarter. We're like, this is boring.
I mean, I stayed. Like, I was there with my parents. I threw in a lip. Like, it was the first time my mom never said anything. Like, she just like let it happen. She just, like, probably the best part of the win, realistically. She just like let it ride.
I mean, even the people who like were at the Georgia TCU national championship this year, they're like, I literally know a Georgia guy who left in the third quarter. Like, that's pretty absurd. Like, don't want to watch your team celebrate on the field. But regardless, it's like, you want a good match, especially for a big game that you're paying money for. If you're going to a bar with a bunch of people and getting wasted, like, you want a competitive game so you can get your juices flowing, get that anxiety boiling a little bit.
Exactly. And I want to get into hot takes from everybody, but I think this is my hot take off of that. We're talking. I don't think this is the last time. I don't think this is the one time we play each other this year.
Oh man,
not at all.
Yeah,
I think round one. I think this is round one, and I think Gabriel is the X factor that makes this a tight game versus like what we saw last year, which is an anomaly. And every year, like, the spread is 5, but the year, our statistician Ari, shout out to him, he sent us some stats over, and every year when Texas was a bigger favorite, at times, like OU came in and won the game outright. They have like more of the upsets, sometimes. So I think my hot take, and we'll go Caleb, Toss, then you, Nick. My hot take is this is round 1 of 2 of Texas OU, because I really think these are the 2 cream of the crop teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think hot take, and this is also just football knowledge in general, but who gets more turnovers? I mean, we have 10 interceptions on the year, 3 forced fumbles for our defense. I don't know what y'all are at personally, but I know right now we are tied for 3rd in the country in Power 5 for turnover margin with +8. I mean, like, our turnovers that's why our wins are so huge, and that's why we're balling out. So whoever gets more turnovers this game, most likely is going to win this thing.
Wow. That's a lot of picks.
I feel like that's normally kind of the case, right? Like,
right. That's why I'm like, football, it's not saying nothing.
But for this game specifically, right? Like, you really have to take care of the football. It's funny. It's like anyone that is on either side of this game knows how true of a rivalry it is and how much that means and how that reflects on the field. Like, we won when we had swoops, and like, we can tell you what the quarterbacking looked like game in, game out. And like, I love the 18-wheeler package, partially just because we won that one time, like, but the rest of the season, it wasn't very effective. Right. Like, and we were not as good of a team that year. We ended up winning. Right. And there have been times where Oklahoma has not been as good of a team as Texas, and they have ended up winning. Like, this is why college football is so great. Right. Yeah. Like, the margins that are normally much wider in college football between great teams, in college football between great teams and not very good teams. Whereas the NFL, like, any given Sunday, anyone can win. Like, that applies for this game every year, no matter who is on the rosters.
Like, the NFL, I mean, you see the Jets-Chiefs game. All they had to do was beat the script,
Right.
Yeah. Nick?
Hot take. I mean, I think the winner of this game, goes to the college football playoff. And does that mean that the winner of this game wins the conference championship as well against, round 2? I don't know, but I think one of these 2 teams makes the run, because the path is pretty clear for both of us. Mm-hmm. The rest of the Big 12 is not strong as it used to be. And obviously we're making our exit and heading over the SEC together at the same time. But both these programs are looking to make a statement as they're making an entrance there. And, obviously we all have targets on our backs, but we're taking care of business each week. And none of these games have been close for either of our teams. So this is definitely the biggest competition and test that we've had in front of each other. And I truly believe that if we can take care of this game, either your guys or us, then you can go all the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To answer your question, by the way, we have 6 picks, which is good, I would say. Yeah. Not 10, but 6 is pretty good. Yeah. And 2 fumble.
I don't know, 5 picks in one game. I think that was
that'll inflate the stats a little bit. That'll boost the numbers. The 18-wheeler. I wish the 18-wheeler. I wish we had NIL. Then he would have had a fire UPS NIL deal. And we all know that. We all know that's true. Like, he would have. He would have been with FedEx. Like, he would have had a sweet deal. But yeah, and we had a forced fumble last week that the Kansas Jayhawks recovered for like one of their 2 scores, which was like, it can't not be a Texas game in some little shape or form. Like, it has to be a little Texas, which I was like, we were like, is this real life? Like, how is it? Someone's like at the bar, was like, can they even do that? It was one of those moments. But I appreciate all the knowledge you shared. So a couple more for you, Caleb, and some fun ones. There have been unbelievable quarterbacks at Oklahoma in the last decade. The 3 best for OU, I would say, are Baker, Jalen, and Kyler. The old game, start, bench, cut.
Shoot. Start, bench, cut. Dang. Well, you're talking college, right?
College.
Like, not their NFL career. College. Okay, then I'll start Baker. I'll bench Kyler, and then I'd cut Jalen. And I can tell you why. Because
okay,
please indulge.
Because I played with all of them, and I thought you were going to say Caleb instead of Jalen, because I feel like that might have even been closer. But because I played with Caleb as well, so I was like, I don't know. But
where does Caleb stack in? Is he Does he jump Kyler?
I think Caleb probably would even jump Baker. I think Caleb would be the start, and then I'd bench Baker, and then I'd have to cut Kyler. And the reason why is the leadership with them as well. And because the thing that Dylan does really well is he gets people around him to play better, and which thus makes him play better. And so it's just a huge effect, and everybody keeps on going up. Now, when Baker, he was as good as he was and still made people play better. And so that's why when you're a leader and you're down, you need somebody to cuss the team out or whatever at halftime. Like there's no question on who's going to do it. It's when is Baker going to walk into the locker room to do that? And before every game, it's not a bunch of different guys. It's Baker. When Kyler would talk, it was kind of like he's pissed off. Like that's the only time he would talk. Everything else, it was like, let's handle business. Let's go. Like he's just such a serious guy. And Jalen, I mean, that's just more off skill than anything. I mean, he also is a transfer guy that didn't spend a bunch of years with us. So you get closer to those other guys than you do to him. And then Caleb, like if I would start him because he was the pup, but he also respected everybody else and was a loving guy. And then he's a freak athlete. So it's like, you might as well throw that in there. So
I mean,
that's for all that.
He was like the next question I was going to ask, because I know you play with him as well. It's very interesting. Like from the outside perspective, we told we have a soft spot for Hurts because, like, you know, the outside looking in, like a guy that comes in as a transfer and is as effective as he is, a guy that could have transferred before that at Alabama, but decided to stay and wait. And you know what? Then showed up when his team needed it most in the SEC. Like he showed up and showed out, and like from like the outside looking in, seemed like the ultimate teammate and the skill of Kyler. And it's hard not to see what Baker was in college because he was so unapologetically himself, like in front of the cameras on the field. So all that makes sense. Where do you want to see Caleb end up in the NFL objectively? We're seeing the Bears, the Cardinals. Yeah, what team do you want to, based off whatever's going on right now?
Based off what's going on. So who are the Bears?
I got
Justin Fields on the hot seats.
So as it stands right now, like the Bears have the number 1 and 2 pick because they have Carolina's pick. So I don't know if he'd be able to escape that situation. The Giants are pretty bad. Of course, Arizona's in the mix as always. I mean, there's teams out there. But the other thing to consider is that he had just mentioned that he could be making more money in college his senior year than he would through NIL than he would on his rookie contract. So he could end up staying for a 4th season, and then it's a whole new landscape of people drafting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, personally, I'd like to see him at like a Dallas Cowboys situation. I'm a Cowboys fan myself, but that's not why I say it. Now Dak is a crazy good quarterback, and they're playing well this year. But I mean, I still think Caleb can be better, and like he has the potential to be better. And then either in LA, a Dallas, or New York, just with all the marketing he has and the marketability, like he's already doing it. So if you keep him in LA at one of those teams, Rams or Chargers, that could be a huge benefit. Or you take him to Dallas and New York. I mean, TV is right there whenever he wants. So that's just for his benefit.
I think the Giants were on his list too. I think he had the Cowboys and the Giants both on his list that he put out there. I mean, it's an interesting like thought exercise. Like if he does stay, like you kind of understand it. Like we talked about before Bijan declared, we were like, honestly, like he could stay, and if he did, he'd have an awesome. He'd make a ton of money. He'd be the king of Austin, Texas, which is an excellent city to live in.
I'm not even gonna lie.
It made sense.
It's tough as a running back because your career is just a lot shorter and you take way too many hits. Like I understand him leaving.
Yeah. And the Caleb thing too is like you get different competition next year.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a new challenge.
Big 10.
Yeah. I did have a quick question, just Caleb, just because your collegiate tenure was so long as a player. And something that I've been thinking about, obviously the Texas Longhorns have not in the last 3 games faced a starting quarterback, right? We play who we play, and we deal with the scenario that's put in front of us, and we've gone and we've won football games, which is what we had to do. It doesn't really matter who's under center for the other team. But the guy like Dylan, he's a left-handed quarterback, right? Michael Penix is having a ton of success this year. He's a left-handed QB. Did it make a difference when you played a talented lefty versus a righty, especially when I don't know what like y'all's depth of quarterback always looked like, but the Texas Longhorns don't have a guy that they can throw back there who's lefty from the scout team to kind of pretend to be Dylan. Like, did that make a difference?
I think what I go to is just the sprint outs in the boots. I mean, they're to the opposite side of the field usually. And so that can be different on your comfortability in practice, like the amount of times you've done it before. But I mean, what's really important is the zone read, and they do that both sides. Like that's the game. The RPOs will be to a different side. The sprint outs will be to a different side. But in a defensive mindset, like, I don't know, I'm just dropping to my drop and just looking for what I'm looking for. They run the same routes both ways. Right. And so I don't think it makes too much of a difference. The ball might come out different on deep balls. Like it spins the opposite way, so it might fall to a different side than you're used to. But that would be something totally subconscious that you wouldn't even know your body feels. So you can't really put any statistics on it to say one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. It's always been something that's interested me, just because like you've never really seen a ton of lefties have tremendous success in the NFL, right? Like Tua's obviously
Vic was going stupid, so.
But part of that doesn't have to do with him being a left-handed guy.
His legs too. I mean, Leinart struggled, and like that's and I think Leinart could have come out early. I don't remember, but I remember other. I was just kind of thinking in the back of my head of guys who stayed in college, and it was different. Obviously, no NIL, you're not making the money, so there's that caveat. But I just, my only worry is for a guy like Caleb who's so talented, like. Locker forfeited the first overall pick. Matt Barkley forfeited the first overall pick. We've seen it not go in guys' favors, staying because there's only. I mean, like how
I think
much
he's too talented. I just think he's too talented. He's not Matt Barkley.
Yeah, he's the. I know he's the best. He's the best college quarterback I probably have seen. In the last 10 years, 15 maybe ever. Like at that point in my life, he's that good. But all right, let's get to it. Score predictions right now. The over-under is 60. Texas is favored by 6.5 points. We'll start with our guest. Caleb, what is your score prediction?
I'm just going to say a 37-32 OU. I don't even know how you get to that number. Those are just the numbers popping up in my head.
You could. some field goals for y'all.
Origami.
And something weird happens for us, but definitely y'all with the field goals, all right. Shit. Cool. So, and to a clean 69 points. Mathematician, all Big 12 academics. I didn't say at the top, so we got a real mathematician on our hands. Nick, what do you got?
I'm gonna go 42 Texas, 27 OU.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, I've been close every single game this season, so
I've been close.
Public might need to listen to Nicky Snacks if you're on betting advice.
I'm no betting advice here. I'm literally just thinking of numbers just for everybody.
No, that's fair. That's fair. No betting advice. Hey, Toss, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with 31-21 in favor of the Horns. I think
defense.
Part of me wants to go like both of our teams in the 40s, right? Like a shootout that's down to the wire at the end of the game. But I think neither of these teams have seen a defense like they're going to play. And I think that makes a huge impact. Either. Or an offense. That's true. I'm really interested though. Like we've been a fourth quarter, second half team. Y'all have been a first half, get the early lead and hold on to it. So it's almost like two different teams. To me, if I'm an Oklahoma fan, which I'm not, and I'm glad that I'm not, and I'm at halftime and it's 17-13 Horns, or it's something to that nature. You're down at half. I'm not feeling good about my chances.
I will say though, to combat that is last week, no points scored the last 38 minutes on us. All those 20 points were in that first quarter. So we came out, had a pick six, third play of the game. Then they put 2 touchdowns and then 2 field goals on us, 4 drives in a row, and then shut them out the rest of the game. So that's just combating that. But traditionally, though, you're 100% correct. We are a second half team or a first quarter team, a first half team with this offense.
And that's what scares me is that we've started off slow for a lot of our games this season. And if we start off flat and you guys get out to an early lead, I mean, obviously we're good in the second half, but we don't want a lead that's too hard to catch up to. I mean, I remember the game against Kyler Murray when he came back from 4 touchdowns or something and made it a game. And obviously we still held on to that game, but at the end of the day, no lead is safe in this game.
Because that 28-7, 2021, we came back, and that's
Right.
impossible. That's just statistically impossible.
Yeah, it's also we're 5-0 right now, and I'm saying we're a second half team and a fourth quarter team. But as a Texas fan, we have not been that except for this year, for the last 10 years. So it's a weird feeling and abnormal. And I know that if we are down, Nick, like you're saying, if we're down 21-7 in the first half, I'm not going to be like, we're a fourth quarter team. I'm going to be biting the shit out of my nails.
Please let us be a fourth
quarter. It's been a fourth quarter team for 5 games, from the last decade. Other than that, we've been apple crumble pie. We've been and done that 21 game. And I want to ask your favorite Red River memory, and I want to ask your favorite memory at OU. Just in college football in general, but of that 21 game, just to paint the picture, because we know you were on the field. Dumbass kick return fumble, forced end recovery. That was, I will admit, kind of cold. Nick and I are in the stands. We come into the Cotton Bowl. We're sitting together. By the time I get to my seat, I'm 5 beers deep. I don't even see Nick yet. We're meeting up. It's 14-0. It's about to be. It's 7-0, and then it's 14-0. We're growing crazy. A couple people in front of us, oh yeah, we recognize y'all's show. We felt like local celebrities. I have again, I went through a whole can. We're hugging and screaming and hooting, and hollering. And I have never I wish we could have had the photo on hand, the log flume ride that Nick and I did after the game, when we were in the state fair. We were so, it was just no smiles. They took a photo of us. We kept it, and we just were going down the log flume just so depressed and so disheveled and so distraught. And we were I couldn't believe it. It was third and 19. I watched that play earlier in the day. Nick turns to me, Nick goes, thank God it's not 3rd and 17 because Joe Burrow had beaten us 3rd and 7. And Caleb's just Superman throw, crazy turning. It was all just super nuts.
Was that Mims who made the catch?
Yeah, Marvin Mims.
He's good.
Yeah, he's good. Broncos too.
They stink, but he's good.
Yeah.
They suck. He's really good. Okay. So favorite Red River moment, you could say the kickoff, or you could throw another one out. And your favorite moment in college football.
Yeah. Well, that is my favorite moment for sure.
Okay.
Every time I go everywhere or anywhere in Norman, they're like, man, thank you so much. And I'm like, thank you. I just made a play. I'm
huge play.
I'm just waiting for it. I actually got some dude had a tattoo of me on him or something.
Does that feel a little weird?
That was lit. I'm not gonna lie. That was at a softball game where it was the World Series softball games here in OKC. And so I was a couple beers in at that point. And so I was so excited to see a tattoo of myself on somebody. That was a real.
Was it good at least?
It was clear, good detail, everything. It was. Yeah,
where on his body was it?
His calf. He walked up to me and said, "You ever met somebody with a tattoo of you?" And there's this big old white dude with the red beard down to here, looking like a lumberjack. And I said, "What?" And he just whipped his knee up, put it up, put his leg up high, and I was like, "What? That's so sick!" Took a picture and everything. I can send it to y'all. It was hilarious.
Please send it to me. I need to see that. That is.
It's got honestly, some good. It's when Baker planted the flag, but that was probably one of my favorites. I guess at OU overall. My favorite play that I've ever had is against West Virginia, Will Greer, back in 2018. I had a pass rush where I blew the tackle up. His foot got caught on the guard, and he blew up. And so then I had a free run at Will Greer. I stripped it, scooped it, and scored. And so that was the best play I ever had at OU. And so that was a good one.
Do it all yourself.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Strip it, yeah. Wow.
Recovered
strip and nobody even at that once Caleb causes a fumble, no one even shows up. Either
how many career touchdowns do you have?
I had two. TCU in the Big 12 Championship 2017, very first play of defense. Monty Bledsoe, defensive tackle, played for the Bengals a little bit. Forced a fumble. I scooped in and scored against not Boykin. That was like 2015. So, yeah, I don't remember who the quarterback was. But, yeah, that was very first play of defense. It, like, set the tone. We were up 10-0 at that point, and we had played them 2 weeks before.
Whoever was probably between
was it
Doug
Taha or whatever his name was?
I don't know. It was light-skinned dude. I don't know. He was number 7, I think. Super tall.
He didn't hold on to the ball.
Yeah,
didn't hold on to the shot either.
Apparently. Well, Caleb, we really appreciate you coming in so well prepared, so much knowledge. If we didn't have to root against you because we hated y'all, we wouldn't. But that's so it
Right.
goes. We hope we get the shit. Hope we get the shit kicked out of you on Saturday, but good luck.
Likewise, you know.
I hope you have fun watching though.
It's fun. I appreciate y'all having me on too. And shoot, if we both weren't awesome, like outside of playing each other, then it wouldn't be a real rivalry anyway. So we got all the respect for you guys.
Be West Virginia Pitt. Be West Virginia Pitt. Those rivalries.
Exactly.
Like, everyone's like, why is that a rivalry? Like, trying to make a thing of that. I'm like, all right, like ESPN, calm down. Like, we know there's no other games on this week. Caleb, Kelly, thank you. Best of luck this weekend. Absolute pleasure having you on. And shout out JP Hughes, the homie for setting it up. And fans out there, Fisher Desopoulos, DJ, Nikki Snacks Kreider. No. Get your horns up. Because we'll see you guys next time. Huck 'em, baby.